So what if I use my OLTP for feature names of Databricks because they update all the time? And so we're going to
Hmm.
have an app built on Lakebase with our knowledge assistant to help us understand what the new names of all of these features are. I'm sure we're going to get some real correspondence about this from the
Oh
conversation.
yeah, we're in trouble. Hello, and welcome to Over Architected. My name is Nick, and with me is Holly. Together, we are experts in AI and data engineering, but separately, not so much.
This is the podcast where we take our favorite features that have been released in the last 30 days and try to shoehorn them into a single architecture to see if it works. And we've had a very busy past 30 days because Nick and I spent a lot of time in San Francisco this year at Data and AI Summit, where we released so many things, had so many
So many
announcements,
features.
and we're excited about it, aren't we, Nick? Really
Yes,
excited.
I'm stoked.
So first up, we have a Lakebase, which is managed Postgres for Databricks. And there's two things that make this quite special. So one, it is separated storage and compute, which is very on brand for Databricks. And the second thing that's really good about it is the ability to clone your database, to be able to make a child instance. So if you need to do some testing, some development testing, but then you don't want to mess around with your production instance, then you can absolutely do that. I should probably say kind of how Postgres is different to a lakehouse. So Postgres is OLTP, that's online transaction processing. So think of that as kind of like the back end to an operational system that you might have where you want to have like a point query in terms of where you'd want to use Postgres or Lakebase. That is something that you want to use for things like apps. If you're doing things like model serving, that is where you'd be using it. Now, I'm going to be honest, is now the time to rip out your production ERP at scale and use Lakebase? No, this is probably something more if you're serving kind of analytical data somewhere and you want it to be snappier in terms of the responses that people are using. That is a great use case for Lakebase. One of the things that makes it great about having it within Databricks now is also being able to have Unity Catalog integration, but also being able to do like ETL and reverse ETL with your Lakehouse as well. So if you've got some tables in your Lakehouse, you want them always synced to be in Lakebase, in Postgres, you can do that. And the reverse is true as well.
That's awesome. Wait, so you're saying that, wait, those last two pieces, the
Yes.
sync, is
Yes.
that built? That's built in.
Yes. So that's built
Wow.
in.
Okay.
Sometimes you hear this called like reverse ETL as well. So sometimes the ETL is kind of taking it from your operational stuff, putting it in the lakehouse, and then pushing it back into it once you've done your ETL or built your model or whatever it is. You can instantly sync it there.
All right. No, this is awesome. I mean, you did say it's not time to rip out your ERP, but you should if you are, brave. Give it a try, right? I mean, why not? Figure it out.
Well, so
And
stop you there. So it's not quite, so it's very early days in terms of the product. So I wouldn't
Mhm.
necessarily, does it scale? Yes. Should you put your online business, and use this as the back end? Probably not. Watch this space. Don't get me
Cool.
wrong. It will get better, but for now.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like if you have like something new, a new use case that's small, it's a good time to try to test it out, see how you like it, basically. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and if you're using Postgres for something else anyway, it's kind of like a step to another analytics thing. So if
Mhm.
your pipelines at the moment are like bronze, silver, gold, and then you take that gold data and then you push it out to Postgres, now is the time to try something that's a bit more managed.
Okay, awesome, awesome. All right, let's put this in a diagram. You did say that a good use case obviously is apps. So I think, Databricks is now basically a mini full stack solution. We have apps, we have an underlying data store, this like neon thing, Lakebase, Postgres, and we have the Lakehouse. So you could conceivably see a future where you can do everything on Databricks. I love that. All right,
I'm
let's
not calling
draw it out.
myself a full stack engineer, despite the fact that I only know Databricks.
Now that Databricks is full stack, you can say that. So, all right, let me put it down. Let's do it. Lakebase. It's a shame Excalibur doesn't have these like built-in nice icons so that we could do, like the little database icon, but that's okay. I'm gonna put Lakebase down and I'm actually just gonna add apps since you did say that. And so is it Databricks apps? What are we calling these things again? App
Yeah, apps, Databricks
apps.
app. Yeah.
Okay. So I have an app. I don't know what the app does, but the app absolutely needs the database. So this will be the start of our architecture.
Are we reading from Lakebase? Are we writing to, or have we got this as like bidirectional?
It's bidirectional.
Okay.
Uh and I mean it writes and it reads, right? Okay, I like that. Let's do that. Hold on, let me, since you were keen on identifying whether this was bidirectional. Boom.
Cool. So that's a big one in data engineering. Do you want to tell me about something in AI that was announced last month?
Two things. So, first one is the MCP support that we have now in beta in Databricks. That's the first thing. And then the second piece is going to be the Agent Bricks, a new Agent Bricks tile, knowledge assistant.
Sorry,
Great,
can we
right?
start with saying what MCP is?
Yes, of course. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. So um, LLMs, all the modern LLMs support something called tool calling. The model has knowledge of tools that you give it. So you say, "Hey, model, I have, tool A, B, and C, which are specific." And I tell the model, "Hey, you have these functions. You can run them if you feel that you need to." So then when I issue some kind of query, it calls that function, it returns the response, and it works with it. So that's tool calling in an LLM. The issue or problem that comes up with this new feature and this new ability is that everybody's basically writing their own tools. Lots of overlap, no standardization, no way to share those tools. They all live like they live in my context, yours live in your context. And so the model context protocol, it's essentially a standard, a protocol, and it was designed in order to make it much more easy to share these tools. So the protocol allows you to stand up a server, define the tools in that server, and then you can tell your LLM, "Hey, here's the MCP server that I have. All the tools that are in there are available." And now Databricks specifically also has support for MCP, Model Context Protocol, and kind of two pieces. The first is that Databricks has exposed built-in MCP servers, and I believe those are for vector search, for Genie, and one more that I forget. Sorry, another one.
Cool. I'll just
uh,
edit this and I'll just
yeah.
flash on screen right now.
Yeah, perfect. And then it also supports custom MCP servers through apps. So you can essentially write your own server and deploy it as a Databricks app and then expose that.
Can I just like can this app be an MCP app? Does that work?
Wow. Yeah, it
Is that
actually
really
does.
lazy?
No, no, it's not. Lazy, smart. Those can be highly related. Okay, the next one is Agent Bricks. So Agent Bricks, I forget the previous name now for it. We apologize. There's a lot of renaming going on. The new tile is for Knowledge Assistant. So you essentially give it a corpus of data. All you have to do is bring your data. So let's say I export the Databricks documentation and I give all those files to this special tile called Knowledge Assistant. And then it will automatically generate a Knowledge Assistant chatbot for me, or agent, I should say, but could be used through chat or whatever interface that you'd like. To really simplify it, it's like if you had to build your own RAG solution for some Knowledge Assistant type of thing, now you can just do it in a few clicks, basically.
So what if I use my OLTP for feature names of Databricks because they update all the time and we need it real time. And so we're going to
Mm.
have an app built on Lakebase with our knowledge assistant to help us understand what the new names of all of these features are.
I mean, I like it. Obviously, that's a good one. I wonder if that's already a feature. Okay, if it's well, no, because you should be able to point it at an underlying context that can be queried and is dynamic and changing. So obviously, an OLTP database makes a lot of sense, or a vector search, or what have you. It could be anything. So I would say keep
Okay.
the arrow. Keep the arrow. Either it's a supported feature that I'm just not aware of, or it should be a supported feature. So let's shove it in
Cool. Okay then. So new Databricks feature
there.
names. Cool. I'm sure we're going to get some real correspondence about this from the
Oh
conversation.
yeah, we're in trouble. I know.
Uh, this is right. Cool. Okay.
I think we're officially power users of Excalibur.
We are. Maybe we should go work in DevRel for them. Cool. Speaking of things that have changed name, let's talk about Delta Live tables and declarative pipelines. So one of the big announcements for last week was, well, Spark 4.0 technically came out the week before, but one of the big contributions to open source this time around has been declarative pipelines, which is ultimately Delta Live tables for open source. Now, if you are not familiar with Delta Live tables and you've just been nodding along to the acronym this entire time, think of this as an abstraction layer above your Spark code that you've been writing. So up until now, you have had to say kind of in fairly granular detail, like, this is what I want it to do. This is how I want you to stick it together. This is how I want the retries to work. With Delta Live tables, there is significantly less that you need to do to be able to build a pipeline. So there's, single syntax for using combining batch and streaming, which is quite nice. So if you have been using the paid version of Databricks, but you're like, well, I don't really want to get to, vendor lock-in because I'm using Delta Live tables. Well, now you won't be, because Delta Live tables, now declarative pipelines, are open source.
I mean, this is really exciting because I admit it, I was a long time critic of DLT. Um, um, it's changed a lot and matured a lot in the last year, more than a year. And seeing it hit open source is just fantastic. I know we use it a lot to build our demos for Summit. And that was my opportunity to really experience the kind of the state of the art version of it because I hadn't used it in some time. Yeah, and I was really impressed by it. It did make developing things a lot easier, and I admit it, I just love the graph. Like I love the graphic. I love looking at it. I love seeing how many rows were updated in each execution. I'm simple. I'm a sucker for those things. So, um,
Oh, sorry, I do have a few more other things in open source that have come out that I would also like
oh,
to shoehorn in at this point as well.
okay.
So we've got some Iceberg announcements as well. So we've got managed Iceberg is available in a Unity catalog now for read and write, which is exciting. There are managed versions of Iceberg as well. So in terms of the things that it is managing, is things like snapshot exploration and compaction. You can also use things like delta sharing, confusingly, but with Iceberg tables now, which is not the outcome I expected, but I'm happy that it exists. And if you don't have managed tables, maybe you want to be able to read something that's in a foreign catalog. You've got read Iceberg tables from a foreign catalog now. So if you're using something like Hive Metastore, Glue, if you've got Snowflake Horizon, or like the IRC for Unity catalog, you can use that with catalog federation as well.
Okay, awesome. I
So
was
another
wondering
thing
when you were
about
going to mention this one. Okay, cool. I mean, hey, I have a long-term relationship with the relationship in quotes with the Delta Iceberg battle. So, I'm I'm just looking forward to a world where I don't have to say either of those words. Um, so that's the future for me. Okay, so I got to shove all this onto this diagram. So I actually have a question before I do. You did mention something about DLT's relationship to Lakebase and the ETL reverse ETL situation. So is it feasible for me to do something like I'm going to just write my declarative pipeline and that this is somehow related to Lakebase? Is that
yeah,
like
so
can I feed my Lakebase with this reverse ETL
it would be
situation?
the other way around. So in terms of extracting from Lakebase, that doesn't use Delta Live text declarative pipelines underneath.
Wait, say that again. Sorry, I did not understand what you just said.
Uh, so the sync is bidirectional, but only one direction I think uses declarative pipelines underneath, and that is the extraction from Lakebase.
Okay.
So if you have, let's say you employ a good few thousand people who are confused by all of these names, you don't want
Mhm.
thousands of people querying your lake base to do all their analytics on it and try and kind of understand it in aggregate. What you'd want is to be able to extract all of that data and then put that into Delta tables so that people can do their analytics on it.
Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to say that this feeds into declarative pipelines. The end result, though, of this pipeline is some table, and however that table gets synced to Lakebase, like this should be possible. Otherwise, I don't really understand.
God, why do you always
So,
draw your arrows the wrong way round? Like,
no, no, hold on. I'm going to explain this. This makes total sense, and it works with the use case that you said. Agent bricks, right? Knowledge assistant, right? It needs new knowledge, right? It draws that knowledge from Lakebase. Lakebase draws that knowledge from the declarative pipeline. The declarative pipeline draws it from random files on cloud storage, which could be additional new documentation.
okay, so do I have to add in all of our users here as oh,
Oh, I didn't say anything about users. Hold on.
we've got like 1,000 users, no, thousands of users trying to hang on,
Uh,
trying
Speaking
to
using
run.
agents and well, they wouldn't use the MCP app, right? The MCP app is a server, so it doesn't have.
Oh,
They would be using an LLM. Just gloss over that detail. Write LLM somewhere. That is a very good drawing. That was sweet.
I'm telling you, we should quit and go work for
Ni-
Skeletor.
You should have kept this thing and wrote LLMs. Okay, whatever. All right.
Oh,
Okay,
maybe I
fine.
should work for
Whatever.
Databricks then at all.
Ah, 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 ah. Okay, there you go. Um, okay, well, I mean, our source in another source table in the declarative pipeline could also be an iceberg table. Um, so let's just do that. There.
Yeah, so you could read that in, and then you could set up a declarative pipeline and then have that go into Lakebase.
Okay, my turn. What do we have next? MLflow 3.
Yes, more open source.
More open source stuff. So taking a little step back, previous MLflow had to deal with the fast-moving LLM Gen AI space. So MLflow, it comes from an era where that stuff more or less didn't exist. So as you're iterating on a model and getting results and trying to improve it, kind of in the classical ML space, not exactly the same concepts worked for the workflows that were being developed around language models and Gen AI models in general. So MLflow 3 reintroduced kind of a new architecture or new organization. So everything is neatly organized into models. Those models have traces that are associated with them. They can be part of experiments. And everything's really organized much neater, much better. We also use that for our demos at Data and AI Summit, and it was fantastic. I do want to point out that not on the open source side, because it's not really relevant on the open source side, but within Databricks, the previous versions of MLflow and tracing and all this were quite slow. So there was a big lag. So the new MLflow release, as part of that, at least on the Databricks side, it's wicked fast. So as soon as you deploy a model, those traces are available basically in real time. As part of it, of course, there is the new review app. So as soon as you have traces available, you can deploy a review application and share it with your other users in your workspace. And the review application reveals the trace and a bunch of expectations and things like this that you can define. Like, hey, was this answer good? Was the agent reaching out to the right sources? Were the tool calls correct? Score this 1 out of 5 or something like this. And then all that built in the results of the what they're called assessments. So those assessments get logged as part of the trace as well. So you can use that all together to improve the model. So I really love the new release of MLflow 3. I'm very excited. For me, really, it was like the speed aspect because I used to sit around and wait for these traces to come in, and that was really frustrating. So having it all work in real time, very nicely organized in the new MLflow 3 has been awesome.
Awesome.
So
Okay,
yeah.
so in terms of adding this to our diagram, so this would sit around quite a few things that we've got in here. So we've got an LLM, and is this, oh, I see, we've got an LLM, but we don't have an app to serve the LLM. Is that what we need? And then we could put MLflow around the LLM?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? Okay, hang
Yeah.
on. What if I call
I
this?
mean, in some sense, actually, you could. I mean, I don't mean to be glib, but you actually could wrap this whole thing in a rectangle and say MLflow because if you are tracing a pipeline, um, right, like you could conceivably trace all this with MLflow. Yeah.
Right. Oh, hang on. Well, that's bad. Background, none. Okay, so I think I want to point out the bits of MLflow that are going to be used for what though. So, uh, your MLflow. I never remember whether that F is capitalized or. Okay, so we've got MLflow, and then, but we also have, so tracing covers quite a lot of it, though, doesn't it? Tracing,
Yes.
wait, oh, tracing covers all of it, so that goes in there. Um, and then there's also, so tracing does kind of like the multi-step auditing of what's happening where.
Mhm.
It also does the like the response times and things like that as well. Um, that's all very much on the like the serving side of it. What are the other newer areas that have come in?
Well, the review application that I mentioned.
Oh, the
Um,
review.
yeah,
Okay.
tracing isn't a new feature. Yeah, but it is
Oh,
reorganized to be more neatly together with models. So
okay. So the review step would go for the last step, right?
yeah, I mean, I personally, if I was drawing it, I would just write like all the features that are available. I don't think we have to worry too much about kind of where they are in the diagram, because the truth is, this is another aspect of it. Um, like, for instance, you could wrap that LLM, just that one LLM thing that you have right there. That could be an MLflow model on its own, right? The MCP server could also have tracing. Agent Bricks is also actually probably its own MLflow model with its own tracing capabilities. So it's just kind of to say that you could use this suite of MLflow features on all of these things that are within this box. If that makes sense. So yeah, you'll go crazy if you start doing this.
Okay, there we go. You can be my MLflow model. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that works. That works. I'm positive that the Agent Bricks knowledge assistant is already out of the box traced with MLflow. So
Oh, okay. So we don't need to add this in. Could we?
no, no, I mean it applies to all of it. Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay. Fine. 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 Cool. All right. So I have another data engineering one, and how you're going to fit this in, I've got absolutely no idea, but it does have a new name, and that is a Lakebridge. So you might have heard a while ago that Databricks acquired a company called Bladebridge, and their focus was on migration. So if you had a bunch of code that was in a other system, in a legacy system, and you wanted to move it across, Bladebridge does assessments of your code. So it analyzes the code to see how hard the conversion is going to be. It will do the conversion for you in a vast majority of scenarios. And then it also does the validation as well. That has now been integrated with Databricks. It is available on our GitHub for us, for you to go and have a look. In terms of migration, let's be honest, no one really loves doing a migration. No one likes spending more time than is needed. Um, Lakebridge will help you speed up your conversions or your migrations by about twice the speed as maybe they were before. In terms of the automation, they've got around 80% in terms of the coverage level of the things that will be able to automate. And we've also got 40 partners that are trained as well. So if you are working with, I'm not going to list all 40, lots of the major providers of staffing that will help you with migrations, they probably have people trained in how to use this. Um, I do have a list of supported dialects in front of me. It is quite large. Do you want me to go through it, or shall I save this for another time?
So the word migration, I mean, in the old world that I'm used to, right, you have a Spark job, that Spark job's running somewhere else, and migrating it is pretty straightforward, at least in thinking about it, right? You have the Spark code, you have some data, you want to deploy that Spark code elsewhere on a different cluster within Databricks. That part I understand. So, like, is that like take me from the old way, like what I just described, into migration in the new world? Like, what does it mean to migrate?
Sure. So you mentioned smart code that was written elsewhere. What if it was written in SAS? Do you know SAS?
No.
There we go.
We've
So
established that I don't know SAS or SAP.
okay, well, SAP is also on this list as well. Um, we've also got like different flavors of things as well. So if you are using Oh God, do you remember Scoop from the old days? SQL for Hadoop?
Yeah, I don't want to talk
Yeah.
about that. That's like, thank
Like
you.
if you were migrating that, like yeah, it's kind of SQL and Databricks and Spark does SQL stuff, but it's not
Mhm.
one to one. And you want to be careful about that. You can't just copy and paste the code over. So it will do the conversion of the language for you as well.
Yeah. Okay, I do have an idea then. In that case, let's do this. We will take and write Lakebridge on this square. Lakebridge. Laker Bridge? Lakebridge. Okay. And I'm going to put it right here. And then I'm going to draw a dashed line here. And then I'm going to make a Spark job here. Spark job somewhere. It was running somewhere else. And this is going to copy over here. And I will change this to a consistent thingy. And then we will say that Lakebridge took this and moved it here.
Uh-huh.
And that this
Uh-huh.
Spark job
Uh-huh.
writes to the cloud storage. How's that?
Wow. Wow. They should have got you to do the marketing deck for this. Wow.
I feel like you're being sarcastic, but I am quite proud of this. All right, there we go.
Yeah, good enough.
Wow.
And also in a very circular way, Lakebridge can also go into our cloud storage of names that have changed, or into Lakebase of names that have changed because it went from Lakebridge to Lakebridge. So we will also find
Oh,
it within our data as well.
we should rename the company Lake Star. Back in my domain, two things. First, Unity catalog metric views. I'm going to put it in the convenience bucket. It's not something that you couldn't have done kind of without this feature. So let's say you need to define some metrics for your for whatever, like some measures or some categorical things. You had to define them for your entire organization based on the data flow. So you have a bunch of pipelines going. You want to measure something within those pipelines. To measure them, you have to write a view. That view has to query your pipelines, either the data or some metadata about that. And then you define this view and you expose that as a view in the Unity catalog. The issue with that is that there's really no kind of it's just a view, so it doesn't have like an elevated status as its own entity, right? It could just like it's just a view. It depends on you knowing like what the heck that is. So Unity catalog metric views, is that what they're called? Metric views allow you to specify these things as a YAML configuration and attach them centrally within Unity Catalog and govern them with Unity Catalog and define them for your entire organization.
Yeah, so I think so if I wanted to have like a cube of data, which is constantly updating, like
hmm
that's a good use for
That's exactly, yeah. In fact, that's explicitly called out in the documentation.
right, okay, excellent. It's almost like I did not read the documentation. All right, so I'm going to export this. I'm going to get regular updates for this, and I'm going to put I'm going to put these in a silver table, and then I'm then going to use metrics, and yeah, I want my cube of data. And to do that, I'm going to use UC metrics to calculate all of this. Excellent. I'm going to call this a gold cube. Hang on. And then my users can also then query my gold table as well. My gold cube. Lovely.
Okay.
I like.
What's not to like? All right. So second thing, AI BI Genie. So first thing, usage guidance addition. So in Genie, right, you can define that a Genie space depends on like custom text, so like some kind of information that you wrote down. It can work on existing tables and views and assets in Unity Catalog, and then it can also depend on SQL queries that you write inline, which are I mean, I like to still think of them simply as views, but they're just in line with the Genie space, so the Genie space actually owns that entity. So in addition to those SQL queries, now you can also add arbitrary text. So, let's say you want to expose to your Genie some select blah 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 blah. If you or you almost certainly will want to say something in English about what you just wrote in SQL, and so now you have that ability. So it's a small quality of life improvement, but the impact could be quite large because that SQL query now has some kind of semantic definition as well. Um, Second thing, huge thing, customizable themes. Okay,
What?
you're why aren't you like jumping up and
What,
down?
when you say theme, do you mean like color scheme or do you mean
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, like the
uh,
dashboard. Yeah, the
oh, I
dashboard
think
theme.
like
Yeah.
more that does IoT data. No, it's color schemes.
Yes. Dashboard. Okay. Now you're thrilled. Okay, excellent. And then the last last piece is that you can directly in a dashboard upload a file. So I mean that kind of is a big one in terms of the user journey that was required before. Like let's say I have a dashboard. I have, some data that's just sitting on my laptop and I want to add it to this dashboard. The process at which you would have had to go to get that into the dashboard was quite laborious. You'd have to leave the dashboard, you'd have to know that there's a data import. You go to the data import, you upload your file, it gets defined in the catalog, then you go back to your dashboard, blah 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 blah, define it. Right? So that's like 10 steps. Now directly in the dashboard, upload the file, and then have access to it. So I think it's pretty awesome. Usually dashboards are like dynamic, but for a static asset like that you can just throw in, very useful.
I will give you that. Yes,
Okay.
that is
All right.
useful. All right. I think I know where I'm going to put this in my diagram. So this MLflow, this has also got logging, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I For me, logging and tracing are synonymous, but that's okay.
Oh, but I want to write to like logging tables.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is
Right.
definitely.
So these logging tables, I'm actually going to lie. I'm going to have these logging tables go to my silver table, and then I'm going to have this to my gold cube. And now I'm going to make a genie space out of this gold cube. And this is going to have all the usage metrics. So I can ask things like, how confused are my employees now that I've renamed 90% of my features? Okay, so
I love that when you start, like when we start the call, um, like when we begin the diagram, you're pretty like, okay, this has to like work. This has to be real. And then, like 30 minutes in, you're just like, I'm gonna lie. I'm just gonna draw this right here. It's gonna work. I don't care.
this will work. I don't know why the criticism. We're going to have, so we've got genie spaces, but we've got a color scheme now. We can make this a gold color scheme because it's gold tables.
Yeah.
What else do we? So we've got our metrics.
You didn't spell color correctly.
Oh, I did, and I think if you rewatch this and look at the captions, it will also be spelled correctly there as well. So there we go. Semantic questions, and so uh,
Well, I would say annotation because like you wouldn't say the question in English, so to
oh, it's
speak.
a
So I have a SQL query and I just need to, it's like a comment, right? Like a comment on a SQL query.
okay, and so I can give an example of like select uh, count from gold, uh, group by employee, and whoever's making the most questions is ultimately the most confused employee. So I think we can have this and say like, and can we annotate this and be like, this is the most confused employee.
No, it's the most curious employee.
Most lost employee.
I
uh,
like this. We should debate what this means.
okay then. Well, why don't we have both? So why don't we have lost? We could have uh there you go. Most curious employee, and most confused. And we can have it as both. How about that?
That's good.
See, this is genius. Right. Okay. And then sorry, the third thing was
File upload. Come on.
file
How could you
upload.
forget?
Okay.
You were actually excited about that one. I had to convince you though. It was you were feigning excitement.
Arbitrary file. And maybe I was going to say we should have a bunch of employee IDs. Maybe that's not the right thing to do. What should we have as our arbitrary file? Actually, it's like employee to department mapping or something like that. Done. So
Okay, hit me. Next feature.
Databricks Free Edition. So, if you've ever used a Databricks Community Edition, especially if you've used it recently, I'm really sorry. It is not on par with the full Databricks platform at the moment. And so, this is where Databricks Free comes in. This allows you to use a modern, updated version of Community Edition. You get $20 of daily credit. So, no longer do we have monthly allowances. If you go over your budget, you just have to wait until the next day and then you can get started. In terms of the features that are available, you do have apps, you do have a few model things as well. You have MLflow. It's serverless, it includes jobs, it includes declarative pipelines, but this is for personal projects only. So keep in mind, it is not a replacement for like the trial version. It's obviously not got enterprise features like security, so you don't have like CMK or private link or anything like that. Because the daily limit is quite small, unsurprisingly, you do not have access to GPUs in Databricks Free Edition. But this is meant for something that's a lot more like personal projects. It's also meant for kind of like self-paced training, or if you want to teach yourself something, you want to get up to speed. Databricks Free Edition is the best way to go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
So Nick, how are you
Okay.
going to turn this into a personal project?
No GPUs. That makes sense. It would last like an hour. So that I appreciate that that's not allowed. Well, $20 a day. It's pretty solid in terms of can I use that towards LLMs?
Yeah, so you can have like model serving in there.
Maybe we do that. Maybe we want to give people access to the MCP server that we wrote, and we say, hey, use free edition and hit our MCP server. So where would we put it? This is
See, a nice big
well, I
space.
see the gap that we have is small, so Databricks free. Let's make it a tad bit bigger. And then we do LLM and kind of like that. And then wait, now you're gonna complain which way does the arrow go?
Well, you're reading from the MCP app and returning the information to the LLM, so surely it goes from left to right.
Oh, surely.
Hey,
Now it's surely. Okay, there we go.
someone who's a professional arrow drawer.
You started it. Give me criticism. Okay, there we go. And you thought
Okay.
I couldn't do it. It couldn't be done. And lo and behold. And the last thing is we have AI Gateway, which we've also mentioned previously on the pod, and it's now generally available. So that's really exciting. So AI Gateway, reminder, I have a list because I can't possibly remember all these things. Governance, monitoring, production readiness to model serving, permission and rate limiting, payload logging, usage tracking, traffic routing, and fallbacks to external models. So it's actually an amazing feature. We should have led with this, but I was vetoed. Um, and I think it really is incredible because the LLM landscape is so big. There's so many different models. There's so many different providers, and having this gateway, which unifies them in a single endpoint, allows you to log them all together. The failover features are fantastic. It's really, I mean, I think it's kind of like a sleeper feature. Honestly, really good stuff.
So I've drawn it round here. I've drawn it round our LLM
Yeah,
app
yeah, that
over
does
here
work.
because
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably way more of an enterprisey type feature that you need.
Mhm.
Um, to be able to track all of these things and log all of them and prevent things from going out, prevent things from coming in.
Wait, I have a question, but going back to Databricks free, is $20 a day, is it use it or lose it, or is it like
No, it's not
accumulate?
cumulative. It is use it or lose it.
That would be sweet. Sign up for your accounts today. Okay, awesome. Well, that's it for our. Wait, do you have one more, or are we done?
No, I don't, but that is a lot for this month. We tried to only talk about things that were either generally available or in public preview. So next month we will have the next tranche of things that are slowly becoming available in public preview as well. So I'm thinking things like Databricks 1 is announced, but it's in private preview at the moment, and next month we'll talk about those new features that have gone public preview, so you will probably hear more about those then.
Yeah, shout out Zero Bus. Make it happen. Can't wait for that feature.
All right then, so we'll see you next month. Bye bye bye.
Bye.
Go on, Nick. Do the punch the button.
Subscribe. 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 There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.